I actually think SRE probably is easier to implement in a small organization than a larger one, because you've got, often when you're a very small organization, you tend to find that people take on roles that aren't part of their traditional skill set, right? So, you might, if you're a one-person team, you're going, oh, I've developed this application. Where's it going to be deployed? So you worry about the deployment yourself. You're like, oh, well, if it fails, I'm going to have to put the monitoring in. So you monitor it yourself. You might have to think about how you're going to protect yourself. So you have to do security yourself. And at that point, you become a one-person SRE team. You've got shared responsibility for everything in your stack, and that, like I say, is easier in a smaller team, because you reduce organizational silos. It's the first principle of DevOps, and like I say, much easier to do in a smaller team. When we've got a larger team and there are a lot of spinning plates and a lot of things in play, you kind of have to hand over responsibility of certain areas to certain individuals. And while we will cross skill and while we'll overlap and while it's a giant Venn diagram of people's roles that should entirely overlap with each other, you tend to find that you'll focus on a specific area. So, like a big organization at Sky, performance engineering is my place. I'm not doing all the system engineering tasks. I take on some of them. I've got basic system engineering skills, but my spinning plate that I help the organization spin is purely around the performance and the reliability of the application. I don't often write a lot of code. I've contributed small amounts of code to some of our applications, but there are people whose focus is going to be development of new features in a big organization, and that's kind of the way it works. But yeah, I think certainly easier if you've got a small organization. Now's the time to try and put SRE in place, because I think having that shared responsibility makes everyone better at their job. Like I say, if you can understand all aspects of a complex system, then it makes your life easier, and it makes people around you's life easier, because no one wants to get woken up in the middle of the night for a problem. And that's the kind of thing that we need to focus on as an SRE team.